Hi everybody, I'm Jason from RTV, and today we are going to talk about your nodal point. Nodal point is the point of no parallax. It basically means that when you're going to stitch some photos and you're turning the camera, you don't want to have stitching problems at a later time. The easiest way to describe nodal point to you is if you hold up your finger in front of your nose, close one eye, and say no. You can see things in the background. It seems like your finger's moving back and forth, but it's not. If you were a Cyclops, everything would stay relative. Go ahead and give it a try and you'll understand what parallax is real quick. What we want is we want the camera to turn around and rotate about its no parallax point. So that's called the nodal point in the industry. Let's get started. For this demonstration, I'm going to use an RTV rotator. This is our XS rotator. I've got the 7-degree tilt plate in it. You can take a look. You can see that with the Sigma 8mm fisheye lens that I have here connected to this Canon D90, I'm using the tilt plate. That's a 7-degree tilt up. That allows us to take 4 photos, one to the north, one to the east, one to the south, and one to the west, and get a perfect stitch and put a mirror ball in the bottom. So today, Canon D90, RTV XS rotator with the quick release plate on it and the 7-degree tilt plate. If you don't know how to put your tilt plate on, we have another video for that. We won't be covering that in today's video. So let's get started. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna attach the D90 to the XS rotator. It's gonna go in the bottom hole here. This is a 1/4-20 hole, very standard. And so we're gonna go ahead and attach that. Be right back with you. Okay, before we attach the camera to the rotator, we want to make sure that the quick release plate is perfectly level. So in this case, the camera is going to slide into here. It's got a 7-degree tilt plate on it, so it will be tilted up, but we want to mount it as level as possible on the back of the camera. To do this, you're going to have to eyeball it, look for some points of reference like lines on the bottom and the grip of the camera, maybe some stickers. I'm just going to use the line right there, and I'm going to eyeball it and get it as close as I can. And I'm going to take my washer, you might have a screwdriver or a coin, and finish it off, get it nice and tight. Just like that. Looks pretty good. Now I'm going to attach it to the back of the rotator by sliding it into the quick release plate. You should hear a little click. Don't forget to tighten that down. You don't have to over tighten it, but don't forget to tighten that down or your camera might fall on the ground, costing you a lot of money. Okay, so it's very important now that the camera is on the rotator, mounted nice and tight. It's very important that the camera rotates about the very center of the camera's lens. Again, that's called the nodal point or the no parallax point. So side to side is relatively easy. We just have to line that up with the point of rotation, which happens to be that hex nut right there. The front to back gets a little tricky. So let's start with the easy part first. I have crafted up a plumb line here using some string and a weight, and I'm now going to tape that on there and just hang that right over the point of rotation so that we can identify the side to side. You're going to want to make sure that you loosen up the threaded bolt on the bottom and the camera will be able to slide left to right. So let's get started. We'll get that taped up and we'll get our side to side done first. Okay, as you can see, I've got a primitive plumb line set up. I've got it set up, the side to side is perfectly over the point of rotation. I'm going to tighten down the thumb screw in the bottom, and I'm going to make note of the setting and write it down. All RTV rotators have a ruler on the bottom, so not all of them do. They're not all created equally as high quality as this, but you should write down the setting so that you know the perfect setting for the lens that you're setting up the nodal point for. So we're going to go ahead, tighten that down, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, not too tight. And we can remove our plumb line. And now our side to side is in place. Now it's time for the front to back. For this, we're gonna head outside. Okay, for this final stage of finding our nodal point, you're gonna have to go outside. You're gonna want to find 2 large vertical objects, one of them in which you can be within 2 feet of, and the other one has to be behind it at least 30 feet away. So I'm in a parking lot right now. I've got my viewfinder on the D90, which is going to be critical for this, and I'm seeing a couple of poles, so let's go take a look. For this, you're going to want to make sure that your camera is level, so I'm going to give it a quick level here. Okay, for this next phase, we are going to find two vertical objects. Number one, right here, we're going to put that within 2 to 3 feet of the camera. The second vertical object is the light pole in the distance. It has to be at least 20 to 30 feet away. Once we're set up, you want to look through the viewfinder, probably set it to manual focus so that you can make sure that you get this edge lined up with that edge. We're going to leave just a little bit of gap between those two objects, okay? You're going to look through the viewfinder and you're going to turn so that both objects go into the far right extremity of the viewfinder. You're going to take a picture. You're going to then turn all the way to the left so that the objects go into the left extremity of the viewfinder, and you're going to take a picture. Once you take those two pictures, you're going to measure the distance between the two objects. We're going to measure the gap. The goal is to make sure that there is no difference. So you'll either slide it forward. If the gap gets larger, you're going to slide it back. You're going to continue slowly moving it forward and back until you have zero difference. Then you have found your nodal point. After you take a couple pictures, measure the distance in Photoshop, you're going to find it's relatively quick to find your nodal point. So let's get started. To kick things off, you can kind of eyeball it a little bit. The nodal point's going to be somewhere in the middle of the lens. So to start off, it might help if you just look straight down over your point of rotation. Be very careful, loosen up the nut on the back, look down, and then bring the camera forward or back. And you're going to just eyeball it, lock it in place. In the beginning, as you look at the right extremity and the left extremity and the distance, you're probably going to see it shift quite a bit, but as you get closer, you're going to have to measure that distance on a computer. And you're going to only be able to do that by taking a photo of where it's at each extremity point. All right, everybody, I've got both photos, the last two that I took outside, opened up in my photo program, and you can see I've got the right extremity here and the left extremity. And what we're going to do is we're just going to slowly zoom in on this. And what we want to do is we want to measure the distance. This is the object that was closest to us. This is, again, the object that was in the distance. I'm going to go over here to my tool and just make a little box, and I want to measure the distance right there. And I can see that I'm dealing with about 45 or 46 pixels, okay? So that's 40, let's just call it 45. Now I'm going to zoom into this left extremity here, and I want to go in about the same spot. All right, and I'm at about 38 pixels here. Pretty close, pretty close. I would say that that's, you know, we could try just a little bit more, but that's really, you know, that's pretty darn close. So I'm going to try to make one more adjustment to that and get that down to really get it down to so that they're both within about 5 pixels. But you see where we're going with it. Hopefully that helps. Thank you so much for watching the video, and any questions, give us a call. Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate your support.